Welcome, my friends, to this extra spooky showdown between the Tomb Kings, who shall be led by Ark in the Black, and the Vampire Counts, who are going to be led by a Blood Dragon Vampire Lord. And is it me, or does he look like he's like wearing lipstick? I don't know, kind of looks like he does a little bit in that tooltip. But for the build, we're going to be going with a very heavy bow shopty build. So there's a couple ways to play against Vampire Counts for the Tomb Kings. You can go with the classic monster mash where you just get like halberds in the front line, the Necro Sphinx, you just go in there and go fisticuffs with monsters. And I think both ways are very viable ways to play, but it really just depends on your playstyle. Now, for me, I like to play with the bow shopties and play a bit more of a defensive Helm's Deep and kind of counterpunch your opponent. So in the front line, it's going to be two groups of Tomb Guard with halberds. Now, these guys make a pretty good frontline choice. They have AP, so they are able to put an okay dent into Graveguard, which are the common frontline matchup here. And plus, against Vampire Count monsters like Vargulfs, Terrorgeist, at least you have some anti-large and AP on your roster. So we got two of those guys. Two groups of Skeleton Warriors on the flanks are going to be Holden in the deep. But more importantly, guys, we got three groups of the bow shopty, one of which is going to be the Chosen of the Gods. So they're pretty good against like Vargulfs, Terrorgeist. Your opponent can kind of juke and dodge you a little bit, but for the most part, these guys do have the capabilities of hammering down those big targets. You also have to be careful though, because vampires do have some really good swarming mechanics. They can get in there with Black Knights, Direwolves, Fellbats, Terrorgeist. They could like fly over and just harass you from so many angles. So it's certainly going to be a bit of a defensive pickle. You really have to make sure to have your defensive geometry up and have reserves and some nice Necropolis Knights in the back as well to help out. So we got Necropolis Knights, anti-large, armor piercing. They just give you mass, so the vampires can't bully you as easily. If you just go with like spears and things like that to defend, they can simply push through you with Terrorgeist and Vargulfs. So I also like to have Necropolis Knights here, and yeah, they're the sneakiest of snakes. We got Ark in the Black as well on horseback. He's just going to be running around, cackling, dropping Fated units on elite targets, and summoning skeletons to kind of lend aid and pretty much fill any holes I may have in my army. So Ark in the Black, always a pretty good choice. Cetra is very good here too. Cetra does have anti-large, armor piercing, very good against the big targets, but I like Ark in the Black quite a bit in this matchup. Two groups of Nehekar Horsemen. Now, they're not going to be doing too much like offensive damage, but use them as kind of a backline sweeper. So if your opponent is pressuring your bow shopty with, not the carrying, but the Fellbats and those mobile units and the dogs, these guys are really good at dealing with like scurvy dog type units and, dire wolves and all that stuff. So two groups of them, two groups of carrying up in the skies just to fight Fellbats. That's pretty much the only reason I brought them, and that's pretty much it. So for my opponent's army, the Great Aristocratic does have two groups of Blood Knights. He does also have the Dire Pack up here on the high ground. Dire Pack's a pretty good choice against those like bow shopties. Certainly can be very annoying if he's able to catch me. Anti-large, and yeah, just a cool unit. So two Blood Knights. He has the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord. His main core of the army is going to be all Graveguard in the front, Skeleton Warriors here. So four Graveguard and four groups of Skeletons. And on the far side, he has a very sneaky Hex Wraith. Hex Wraith is going to be in a little bit of trouble. I mean, they can do work if they're able to, survive the onslaught because they have good AP, and of course, fire damage is pertinent in this matchup against certain lords. But, I do have that sweet Fated unit, so it's going to be tough for those guys. Let's get the show on the road, see how it goes. So bow shopty are going to be tearing into the Graveguard. These bad boys do have 79 models right here. So now they have 79. So they've taken a little bit of damage. So that's good. I don't really have any other targets. Aristocratic was doing a very good job of like keeping his guys out of range. So he's just waiting for his main force to get close enough here. And once they do close the distance, he's going to be able to just, excuse me. Once they do close the distance, I'm going to be switching my targets. But then I'm going to be pressured, right? So it's not going to be as free as it would be. So in the meantime, I'm going to be dropping some summons right here on the advancing Skeleton Warriors and also charging in with my Nehekar Horsemen here. Just trying to butter up the charge a little bit. I do also get a little bit of a hammering lance here into the Königstein Stalkers, and from here we will be pulling back. So basically I'm just trying to slow his advance to just buy more time for my Shopty Greatbows, because his infantry quality is obviously superior to mine. In the meantime, the bow shopty are going to be going into the back against these Blood Knights, and we're getting some good damage. They're down to 43 models, but the HP damage is quite significant. So we're kind of hammering those guys, and it looks like he's going to be doing a bit of a flank overload, coming around with the Blood Knights and the dogs. In the meantime, he does attack with the Hex Wraith, and they're going to get just pimp slapped by a Fated unit. I mean, the magic does so much damage to them. So they get slapped up, and also a group of carrying attacks them. They're going down after the game. We were both wondering about like, well, how did they go down so quick? And we both thought it was like the carrion here kind of hitting them. It was really funny. But anyways, the Chosen of the Gods are going to be shooting into the Blood Knights right here, and the Blood Knights are getting worn down pretty quick. But Aristocratic gets a nice little hammering charge into the back of the Tomb Guards with halberds. He's not going to be staying, so I kind of have to fall back. The sneaky snakes and the swords forming a shield wall right here, just waiting for the Blood Knights to come in. And again, whenever you're playing with like bow shopty or builds like this, just always like whenever you don't need something to be fighting somewhere, and yeah, you can see how quickly those guys died right there, pretty insane. Just fall back and always be like reinforcing your back line. So here we have the Skeleton in the front. The Blood Knights are going to be charging into these guys, and at this point they'll be falling back because I will be countercharging with the Sneaky Snakes, or maybe he's going to stay in combat. Hard to say, but the Sneaky Snakes do have poison as well, so they're going to be kind of pinning down some of these Blood Knights. And I could potentially over pursue here, but there's no point. It's always important to just stay high and tight. It's much like you're playing Vampire Coast, for example. Like, it's very easy to over pursue and let your backline get open, but from here you can see we pull back the snakes, we readjust these spears. These spears are going to be moving up in this direction because we have a bit of a bad situation here. The Blood Dragon Vampire Lord, a Master Duelist, is looking to give Arkin the Black the business. So I pull in with the Necropolis Knights, who then get countercharged by the Blood Knights, and a tough situation because he gets a really good summon here. So he's going to be dropping a summon on top of my Sneaky Snakes, but I also use a new Shopti summon. So both of us trading our summons like just back and forth. And I'm able to get away with my snakes. They don't take much damage. 16 of their 18 models. My Ushopti summon are going to hold those guys in place, and I also do use the Glorious Fate of Yuna here on the Blood Knights, which is good. So at this point, just kind of rerouting my back line, but he had the Direwolves waiting and lying in wait back here. So my Sneaky Snakes are going to be intercepting those guys. The bonus for large in the Dire Pack is going to be helpful, but, you know, just sheer volume. I have my Shopti attacking. I have Skeletons here. The Snakes, Arkin the Black, we're going to be able to kill those guys rather quickly. So these Blood Knights are going to be disappearing into the Sweet Night as they crumble here with 400 HP. They do kill a couple Skeletons on the way out. And in the center pocket, my Shopti summon is going to be disappearing relatively soon. He does pop the Helm of Discord to kind of butter up the stats of those units there, make them a little bit weak with the 0 melee attack and 8 melee defense. So they're going to be going down rather quickly, but the Bounce Bar does pull into my favor as the Blood Knights are just getting hammered. I mean, they're taking so much work here. Some do get into the back, but I decided to just mass charge in with the Ushopti, and the Ushopti should be able to finish off these Blood Knights. I mean, they just have so many bodies, and Ushopti have pretty good AP, so they shouldn't have a problem with these guys. So we collapse in and crumble. The Sneaky Snakes are going to be pulling back as well, and now we're forming our last layer of defense. So the Skeleton Spears are going to be reforming. I pull back the Nekar Horsemen, I pull back the Carrion, and I'm just going to be sitting back here protecting my very, very expensive investment, because if they get caught, I mean, I pretty much just lose the game. Vampire Count's infantry is going to be Tomb King's infantry all day. I mean, Tomb Guard and things like that are just so damn good. So Necropolis Knights and Company going to be going in to try and lend their aid here. On the flank, I have some Skeleton Warriors holding back, looks like Undead Skeleton Warriors, but yeah, looks like he's going to just, you know, win on sheer numbers there. But Arkin the Black's going to be engaging as well just to kind of recharge his staff, and the Bow Shopti are going to be laying into the Graveguard at this point. So Necropolis Knights with Halberds do feign a charge, but they pull back as soon as the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord engages, because I figured I could Spirit Leech him, number one, and then just shoot him with all the Bow Shopti. So here, we're going to put the Bow Shopti, Chosen of the Gods, into the infantry, because they're better against infantry than they are single targets. And the other two are just going to be going after the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord. A little bit of friendly fire right there. Looks like it tees off of my guys. And he also popped all his buffs, so I was like, I don't need to commit and like fight him while he's buffed. Let's wait till it kind of wears off a little bit and then go in towards the end of the buff. Arkin the Black's also going to be dropping some Skeletons right here, and the Skeletons are going to be helping to hold back the Graveguard, which of course would be reinforcing this Blood Dragon Vampire Lord. So from here, the Sneaky Snakes are going to be chasing the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord. Nekar Horsemen are going to be circling up and around looking for those juicy targets, and the Bow Shopti are going to be just getting in there and hopefully tearing some of those guys apart. Skeleton Spears are going to be scooting up as well to try and intercept these guys, and the bounce power is definitely going a little bit more in my favor. On the far side, we're going to be using Carrion to go after the Graveguard here in the low ground to just kind of swarm these guys. I still had some Tomb Guard here, so I was like, maybe Carrion and some Cav units could potentially crumble these guys, and that's one of his last bastions of like powerful units. He has a couple right here, and on this side of the battlefield, of course, we have a pretty cataclysmic battle as the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord is actually able to finish off all my Cav units. So these last Sneaky Snakes are going to be getting dragged down by the Graveguard and the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord. They've certainly done well this game. They didn't get a ton of kills, but they were a good high mass unit that pinned down a lot of the Blood Knight charges and really allowed me to hold my backline position. So Arkin the Black is going to be scurrying away as well. I realized that one of the only ways that he could probably come back in this game is if the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord killed Arkin, and then his infantry were able to kind of just march down and out-attrition my Chosen of the Gods and these troops back here. So I pull back Arkin, just going to be, cackling, being an evil necromancer as usual in the back, and the Bow Shopti are going to be just unloading into the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord. Aerocrastic certainly has some pretty good dodges right here. He's just going back and forth, so I'm not able to really pin him down like I want to, but nonetheless, we're still kind of wearing him down, and it looks like the Vampire Count army is starting to crumble on several fronts. Here in the back, my Haggard Goon Squad, man, these Graveguard are just so damn durable. These guys just hold all day. I mean, 90 armor, I guess it's the shields, bonus with infantry, very good against these guys as well, though. Tomb Guards with Halberds, like I said, I think they're a nice pick in this matchup because they do have that AP value. And plus, many Vampire Counts builds are, very large dependent against Tomb Kings. So the Bow Shopti are going to be just unleashing hell upon these Graveguard as they do advance here. There's going to be some zombies and skeletons coming in, but they probably won't be able to catch these guys. What's cool about the Shopti as well is they're pretty good in melee, so if they have to fight like Graveguard, it's a good matchup for the Graveguard, or for the Bow Shopti, or the Shopti, I should say. So they can get in there and really kill Graveguard. They don't have the bonus versus infantry like regular Shopti, but still they do some good work. Arkin the Black's going to be recharging his staff here against these skeleton warriors, and it looks like the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord is going to be making his last samurai charge as he does get in here, and yeah, we'll see how it goes for him. I think there's going to be some bows shooting at him, but that's pretty much going to be it as the vampire forces do crumble here in this desert. They've delved into... Oh, that's really cool in the background. Look at that massive, Titan back there. Man. The Tomb Kings maps, really have some cool aesthetics. Look how cool this, terrain is, man. That is incredibly badass, and like massive Titan back there. Oh, it's so badass. Anyways, guys, well played. Hopefully you enjoyed that Tomb King versus Vampire Count game. I think that build is pretty strong. I think that it can work with Cetra, it can work with Arkin. Although I do like the Fate of Una against Blood Knights. It's incredibly good there. But Cetra would be better against, for example, if you're facing off against Terrorgeist builds or builds that are using like a lot of big monsters for vampire counts instead of builds like this. I think Cetra is a better pick. So it's give and take, really. I mean, you can pick either one in an all-comers situation and you'll be fine. They're both good choices. Cetra would be able to actually duel the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord with the Blade of Patral and some of his magic. So there's give and takes. I mean, they're both good choices. I'm just a huge Ark in the Black fan, and I just like his summons and the fact that he can cycle his cooldowns very quickly with the Staff of Nagash. So it's really just a preference thing, but this style of play works very well. You can honestly go with, Necrosphinxes, things like that. I mean, there's a multitude of ways to play. And builds like this can work as well. I mean, his build was good. Graveguard can win in the front line. I think losing the Hex race that much money that quick was a huge blow to him. Like, he needed those guys to do work in the back line. And that was my weak side. I had nothing to stop him over there except the fact that the Fate of Una and the Carrion killed him. Like, had I not been able to kill that big, expensive investment, my whole flank could have been in some trouble. So really just a minute thing really determines, the outcome of the game in some ways. But yeah, being able to screen out the Blood Knights was good and just kind of hammer those guys down. And yeah, it was good. But I'm honestly, I do like the idea of going like maybe like 3 Graveguard, like cut down on the skeletons, get rid of the Hex race, and then get like a bunch of Black Knights and Fellbats and things like that, and Direwolves just to kind of swarm. But then again, if you do that, then the Tomb Kings come in with monsters and you lose. So you kind of have to respect both things, which is a little bit tricky for sure. So yeah, something to think about. So well played to my opponent Norris, aka Herocrastic here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this Tomb King versus Vampire Count game, and see you guys next time. Take care.